and welcome to the Round 4 edition of the BigFooty Collingwood Magpies Board podcast. I am your host, the Mighty T, and joining me tonight I have someone who's been recently elevated to the ranks of moderator. I don't think we've had you on the show since, Magpie Girl. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing very well, thanks, Mighty T.
That's good. That's what I like to hear. And congratulations on your appointment publicly.
Thank you.
It's very good news.
Thank you very much. I'm enjoying it.
And thanks for all the work you're doing with the sponsorship stuff. It's fair to say the rest of us have no clue what's going on, but you seem to, and that's great.
Good. I'm glad you're all reading your housekeeping thread.
That's it. We've also got a member of our opposition for the week here, and I like to think of Richmond supporters as kindred spirits, really. In another life, I think all Collingwood supporters are Richmond supporters. Similar agonies, similar problems, and similar success stories throughout the ages. Danog, what are your thoughts on this? Am I talking crap?
You are, because you won a premiership in 2010. So don't try and compare your success and failures with Richmond.
No, look, it has been a bit of a lean period, but I like to think that you guys are certainly on the up and up. And well, I was going to say to that end, we should discuss this weekend's game, but that's probably not the right way to enter it, is it?
No, speak a bit about last week. How about your guys first? I mean, I thought it was pretty close, the match against Collingwood and Geelong.
It certainly was. It was an entertaining game, and I've said this before. They're my favourite games of the year to watch because you have two teams that have, in the last 6 years, have developed such a rich history and a little bit of a competitive animosity towards each other, going back to that 2007 preliminary final, which we probably could have won and then won a premiership. But we'll gloss over that. Magpie Girl, what did you think about the game? You had a chance to see it this weekend?
I did. I was there the other night. I thought it was a frustrating game at times, but it was also entertaining. And I thought it was pretty competitive. Overall, given the outs that we had, the young players that we had against a very mature and experienced Geelong side, the pressure got to them at times and they made lots of fumbly errors and turnovers and all of those sorts of things. But overall, I thought they held their own, and with a couple of minutes to go, the game could have gone either way.
Oh, absolutely. And it was really good to see young Jamie Elliott, stands up again, just like he did early last year. 5 goals, I think it was 3 in the last quarter, just, completely focused, clutch, just getting it done and getting us back into a position to win the game. And we'll talk about umpires a bit later on, but, one decision one way and we might have just snatched a win. Let's turn to Danog. Let's turn to the Bulldogs game against the Tigers. 2 points. It's tough. It's tough to cop a loss like that.
Yeah, but I'm happy we did because I'm not happy with the way that Hardwick's gone this year in playing all these old players. In the first 3 years of his coaching tenure, he did it quite well, playing a lot of kids a lot of the time, and we did start out complete crap. But then, you had the steady improvement from year to year. I think it was from 15th to 12th. I think 12th again, but a much better percentage, and then to 7th last year. So, very good linear improvement there, and expecting with an easy draw this year to be top 4, or at least contesting top 6. But the way we've started hasn't been very good, losing to Gold Coast, narrowly getting over Carlton, and then losing against the Dogs by, admittedly, only by 2 points. But, yeah, it's just not good enough.
I mean, I was at the game against Carlton. With very easily, it could be 0-3 for the Tigers right now, and it's almost become a case of where is the consistency in Richmond, or where is it coming from? Is it a case of the best players not standing up when they have to, or I don't know? Is there just not enough depth or quality in the side in general to get over the line?
I think the depth has grown, but again, Hardwick's not willing to back the young players to play. I mean, you've got players that are playing in the VFL like Matt Arnott or Sam Lloyd, who can replace Jake King, or you've got Mac McDonough, who was replaced after one game, or Matt D, or Ben Lennon, or Brad Helbig even, that could come in for someone like Chris Newman. I mean, those guys are both 30-odd, so they're not going to get any better. Newman's never really got a lot of the ball before, and for some reason we're trying him up forward, and that hasn't worked. So I'm not sure why you don't just play these young players. I'd be very surprised if at least King was out for Sam Lloyd this week against the Pies, but yeah, I'd be surprised to see more than maybe 2 changes because, I don't know, he just seems set in his ways and his favourites, Damien Hardwick.
Well, we'll get to a discussion about that in a few minutes. But the first thing I want to talk about, this is a touchy subject for all concerned, our supporters and yours. Umpiring is something that is, it gets on the nerve of every football supporter. It's something that we don't want to notice the umpires. I think that's the main thing. But I think this year there's been such a big shift the other way that maybe they're not calling everything that they should be. And I think that it might be affecting the game. What are your thoughts on that? Not specifically to the weekend, but as this season has gone so far as a whole.
I think overall the umpiring is a much better standard. They're not they're umpiring in the spirit of the game rather than to the letter of the law, which thankfully Kevin Bartlett, even though he's a great Richmond man, he's off the rules of the game committee. And Jeff Geeshan's also out as the umpire's boss, and Wayne Campbell's been brought in, and I think Campbell's done a good job, saying what needs to be done. But I agree with you that not all the calls are there that should be. A lot of it, I think holding the ball is the big one that's not being enforced as much as it should be. I think coaches need to notice that you can just drop the ball and everything is fine, as long as, you do it pretty soon after you're tackled. The only real time that they're pinging those is if it's a clear throw or if you've had the ball for at least 3 seconds and then a tackle.
I think when you said the holding the ball rule, that and the prior opportunity, it's almost like the way that rule is officiated has completely altered. And I don't like to cherry pick scenarios, but I look at one instance from the game, our game on the weekend, where I believe it's Dane Swan has ran down Andrew Mackie in the first quarter. The guy's had 6 steps on him, full tackle. The ball's spilled loose, yet it's not a hold in the ball call. I mean, it's clear prior opportunity. It's clear holding the ball, yet it's not being called. And the throwing rule has just been either they're missing it completely or they're just happy to ignore the fact that some players aren't handballing anymore.
I think maybe it might just be, I'm not sure if there was a specific instance you were talking about, but just being on the blind side of contests, it's really hard to get that sort of interpretation right as a throw or a handball. But I'm fine if they give them the benefit of the doubt for a whack, I suppose you could call it, like, a scoopy, handball-y sort of thing. I think they generally get it right. It's just those holding the ball decisions that should be called. You need to reward the tackler for doing a good legal tackle.
And also, the other one that I wanted to discuss was, have you both seen the highlights from the Travis Cloak marking contest?
I have not.
No.
Okay. It's the rules essentially have been changed so that obviously you can push and shove and work each other around in a marking contest, give the player with that strength advantage the chance to use it. Both Lonergan and Cloak go to ground, and a lot of people were howling about it. And I can understand, because that's a 50-50 call. If these two players are grabbing each other and throwing each other to the ground, well, you can't pay a free kick there. But ones that are clear cut, it just seems like even the commentators are confused. Have you found the same thing, Danog? Or
yeah, I mean, there have been a lot of 50-50 contests and calls that I think should be pushing the back and that sort of thing, but they're adjudged to be, this strength in the contest sort of rule. The thing that I've found really weird is, ever since the introduction of that, I thought players like Travis Cloak and Drew Petrie would dominate, and they've had shocking starts to the years.
Yeah. It's almost like the umpires can't quite get it right themselves. It's like they're a bit afraid of being more lenient and going too far the other way. I thought in the first couple of games of the so-called NAB Cup that
the NAB Cup,
the games really flowed, and then suddenly it started to get a bit more held up again, and it's almost like the umpires are trying to find the right middle ground with it all.
Oh, absolutely. Now let's move on to this week's game, because it is a big one. If Collingwood win this week, it's 2-2. If Richmond win, You guys lose a 2-2. So it is a huge game in the context of the top 8 playing for finals this year. We've already spoken about some of the changes that you expect, Danog. Potentially someone like Jake King coming out, Sam Lloyd's coming in. Anything else that you're expecting potentially?
Oh, if I was the coach, or that will realistically happen, because they're two very different things.
We can go both ways. Because if I was the coach, we'd be making a few more changes at Collingwood, I'll tell you that.
Yeah. If I was the coach, we would have King. I think Hampson will be fit enough. So Stevenson, Newman, Grigg, and Shane Edwards. I would take all of them out.
That's wholesale.
That is wholesale, but we've got enough players that can replace them, and I'd bring in Lloyd, McDonough, Lennon, Hampson, and Chris Knights. And I think that would be a lot better, because Chris Knights actually can kick, so it works with the Hawthorn-style game plan that Richmond seems to have. Ben Lennon can also kick. Mac McDonough is a beautiful kick. Sam Lloyd is in the forward line, so it doesn't really matter if he can kick or not, but he's a good opportunist. And Hampson can't kick, but he's good enough, so he's an improvement on Stevenson, which I think will be needed to really bully around Brodie Grundy, because while he is a very good young ruckman, he's still a young ruckman, and we need to take advantage of that if Richmond are any chance of winning.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I couldn't agree more with that. And as per your comment towards, their forwards don't need to know how to kick. As a man who supports Travis Cloke week in, week out, I'm telling you, you're wrong. But I understand the point that you make. Look, I think it's interesting, bringing Hampson in to bully around Grundy, it's got to be done. And I think that Collingwood would be remiss of Collingwood to let, Brodie Grundy walk out there on Friday night, rucking by himself with just Jesse White as backup. Jared Witts should be coming in. I mean, he is at the very least going to force a contest from the ruckman, and at the very least he has to have someone man him. A Troy Chaplin will have to go to in the forward line, because you're going to need a good defender who can, play the man a lot better than Witts can to actually beat him out. Otherwise, he's going to take some marks, and he's going to be a presence. Because a guy that's built like Aaron Sandilands may not play like him yet, but it's still an influence.
It's a long way from playing like him.
Sorry, what was that, Magpie?
He's a long way from playing like him.
He is a long way from playing like him, but I think that, you see, the way that I look at Collingwood at the moment is, I don't think we can win a premiership this year. I mean, it to me seems like a pipe dream. So, the decisions that have to be made are for the longevity of players and for the betterment of the club next year and beyond. So, if we are looking at guys who could be having an influence on the side that are playing in the VFL, maybe they need to have a few extra games. Just like you're saying, you've got these guys who have been in the Tigers lineup for a couple of seasons now. Maybe they're not pushing you guys up anymore. I mean, maybe
the Richmond VFL side did lose round 1 by about 120 points.
I noticed.
But, you've got no one really banging on the door for selection other than Lloyd and probably McDonough as well. But you do need to just give these guys a chance. And Collingwood seem to be, under Buckley, going a lot with the youth option. There's obviously a few exceptions. I really don't like Clinton Young in a team. I don't think he's good at all. But you do have a lot of young talent there, so I think Richmond need to match that exuberance, and it's shown that when a bunch of players are given a chance at senior level, that they can really take to it. I mean, Nick Floston in our losses has seemed one of the most composed marks and kicks, and he just seems to be able to read the play better than 95% of the team. So I think maybe if you put another player into that sort of environment, you might find another gem, but it's not going to happen by keeping them at VFL level and playing Jake King or Sean Grigg for another game.
Absolutely. We had a question from Quickie before, and he wanted to know our thoughts on the use of the spare man today in football, and potentially how Richmond and Collingwood go about using their spare man. Does Damien Hardwick like to orchestrate a spare somewhere around the ground, or does he like going man on man?
He does. Usually it's Troy Chaplin, but they're not going to be able to do that this week with Collingwood's forward line. He'll have to go to Travis Cloak, and that probably means that Asprey goes to Grundy or Witts if you have him, and one of them will be resting in the forward line if you do play two. So, I mean, who else do you have? Goldsack?
Goldsack will probably be playing forward. Yep.
Yeah, that'll probably be Dylan Grimes. So normally Chaplin's the one that does play the loose man. I guess, I mean, he's a trier, and he really does, put 110% in. But I guess Ricky Pettit will be the loose man, or maybe Nick Floston might be out as well, actually, just because of concussion which he suffered. So maybe Jake Batchelor will come in, and he's a very good, very, very good loose man. Or
I like Jake Batchelor.
Chris Newman. Oh, he's lazy. He's laconic. Not lazy, but
he looks like he's
and they try playing him up forward, and they try playing him as a key position player. He's not. He's a great third man. He's a great intercept mark, and they don't seem to want to play him that way. And Chris Newman could probably go back again and be a decent loose man. So it'll be interesting to see. I mean, they've got Dustin Martin playing in the half back line, which is ridiculous. He's a forward mid.
And Jack Rewalt playing on the wing, and Ty Vickery playing as your full forward.
Yeah, that's not good enough.
I know that's something that you wanted to discuss before.
Yeah. Well, Hardwick's clearly trying to make Vickery the number one forward to get some confidence into him, but in doing that, he's basically brought Rewalt down to Vickery's level instead of the opposite. So it doesn't work. You need to center the forward line around the number one target, and then when they, double or triple team Rewalt, then kick it to Vickery when he's one out. I mean, that seems like a decent option. And Vickery really needs to learn how to not lead into other forward space, because he does that a lot. He brings his defender to a contest to make it, 3-on-2 in the defender's favour, which someone, even as a young player like Ben Griffiths, who in a not-so-good year for Richmond, he's been one of the very few shining lights. I think he's having a fantastic year so far. It'll be really interesting to see how he plays. Is Lockie Keefe fit? Because if he is, then I think that'll match up.
Lockie Keefe and Frost will be the anchors of our backline. Maxwell will play the loose man. The last couple of weeks, he's picked up a bit of form doing that, which is where he should always be playing. Because I like Nick Maxwell, the person, but Nick Maxwell, the football player, cannot take a man and cannot keep his man quiet. I will not trust him. I will not trust him on Chris Knights. I won't trust him on any of your mid-forwards, because it's not his role. I want him to peel off. I want him to be the one standing in front of Vickery, that Vickery's looking at, right, when the ball's coming down and Maxie's taking the mark in front of him. That's what I want him to do, because that's where he's most effective.
Totally understandable. I mean, I think if Richmond are to win, the forwards need to lead at the ball, because they have the reach advantage to really get ahead of Collingwood's players. And obviously, if it is a one-on-one contest, you can put it on their head, because Griffiths is 2 metres tall, Vickery's 2 metres tall. You can't man both of them with your tallest defender in Lockie Keefe. Right. Jack Frost is also there, and then you've got Jack Rewalt, who's very good in the air. So,
and Frost will probably. Yeah, and Frost will probably, I think, go to Rewalt. I mean, if you look at the way Frost played from Franklin, Jack Rewalt and Franklin play, I wouldn't say a similar style of game, but it's more based on their athletic prowess and their speed as opposed to their marking ability, or at least contested marking ability. So I expect Frost to go to him. This is a game that's characterised by a lot of outs for both teams. I mean, by no means is either team the finished article. If Delidio and Rance are out for the Tigers, it's a pretty iron marriage, by the way. It's a difficult proposition.
I think Delidio might come back in, not Rance, though. Rance is just... He fell off a bike and injured his foot. Classic.
That is classic, actually. Like Wellingham and the trampoline. It's good stuff.
Pretty much. But I think Delidio will be fine to play. And I think it was Rewalt, and I think there was one other Richmond player that got reported.
They both got off.
Yeah, they both got reprimands. So,
whereas Taylor Adams got rubbed out for a week.
Yes, he did. So it'll be good to see that. I was hoping he would come to Richmond, but I'm happy he's at Collingwood. He's a good young player.
And that's it. I mean, I think that's he's got a lot of football ahead of him. And look, all I can hope for is that we see the best out of both teams and a Collingwood win, I suppose. I mean, that's what I'm really looking forward to. But I think the common ground that we can both agree on is that it's really good to see Carlton not doing well.
I am ecstatic. I couldn't decide who I wanted to win, to lose more. On Sunday, but I'm happy it was Carlton that got pummeled because I don't think Essendon's going to get out of this Asada saga with a full team. I'll say that much. So I'm fine if they go undefeated or next to undefeated until it happens.
Well, that actually leads me into my quick questions. Magpie Girl, I'd love for you to join me on this.
I'll do my best.
Yes, very good. Okay, well, the first question's for you, Magpie Girl. Do you think James Hird should coach Essendon at the end of this year / start of next year?
Oh, that's a really easy question to start off with. I
mean, would you keep him? Would you, if this was Collingwood, would you want him to be the coach?
Look, it's hard. When he's one of your own, you tend to, want to hang on to him and look after him a bit more. I think at this point in time, I would expect him to come back.
Okay.
Would you let him come back for the end of this year? Because he can come back in the last round of this year.
Yeah, look, I don't think that he will do that. He might be in the coach's box, but I think the team needs to be run out with the present coach.
All right, Danog, this one's for you. If Mick Malthouse cannot make finals in the next 2 years, is his appointment at Carlton an abject, complete failure?
I don't think it's Mick's fault. I think it was a oversight by the Carlton board or hierarchy or whatever you want to call them, because they overrated their list and it wasn't the right decision. And not the right decision, but he's a good coach and he's able to develop these young players. I mean, he's done it with Dylan Buckley, who's had a great year so far. I wouldn't say it's a failure. I think it's more of a failure on the recruiting stuff.
Okay. Back to you, Magpie Girl, for one more. If James Hird does come back to coach next year, would you look at Bomber Thompson coaching Collingwood for 2015?
No.
No?
No.
Oh, okay, good.
Is Buckley signed up for 2015?
He is. He signed for 3 more years.
3 more years? Ooh.
Shouldn't even be asking that question, Mighty T.
Hey, look, I asked this question because, and I've said this before, my position on Buckley will be reserved until the end of 2015. Right? I'm giving him this year as concession, and by the end of 2015, if there's no improvement, I will join in the picketing for his head.
That's fair enough. So I don't expect to hear that question again.
You won't hear it again from me. Not for another 12 months or so. And finally, to you, Danog. Richmond have not won a grand final in, what are we now, 33 years. Are you going to see one before your 60th birthday?
Well, I'm 23 now, so I hope so. Originally, I was expecting to see deep finals, I'll call them, probably this year or next. But now with Gold Coast and GWS maturing, I'm not sure if there's a premiership on the horizon for Richmond. So it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Right, I believe that brings us to the end of this week. It's all the time we have. I'd like to thank Magpie Girl again for being around and having a bit of a chat with us and being so passionate in her defence of Nathan Buckley and the suggestion that perhaps Bomber Thompson could be a possible suitor. I am sorry. Don't card me, Magpie Girl. I know you can.
That's right. I have powers, so be careful.
She has powers. Dana, thank you so much for joining us. This has been an enlightening discussion. And it's nice to meet a really objective, level-headed Richmond supporter.
Yeah, it's from some of the shots you get of the crowd, it's not always like that. But no, the Richmond board's not too bad. There's a lot worse ones on BigFooty out there.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that because my last little bit is a plug for the Richmond board. The Richmond board has set up an unofficial preview Tigers versus Cold Pies banter thread. Check it out. It's hilarious. I was not pleasuring myself. That's wrong. I was enjoying myself on it just before we started. It is absolutely hilarious. You get aboard before the game on Friday night and have a laugh with everyone. It's I'm sure it's going to be a winner. Good luck, Danog. Not too much good luck. Hopefully we get up. But thanks again for joining us.
No worries. It's been a pleasure to be on.
Cheers, mate. And this is the Mighty T signing out for another week.
Okay, this is the round 3 trade draft segment. I missed round 2 because I was not feeling very well and had to have to get better. I'm a bit better now, so I should be able to do this quite well. Okay, I'm doing my round 3 segment on Taylor Adams, who we got in a trade for Heath Shaw. Well, I think he's done quite well. He hasn't put massive numbers up, but he has made an impact a bit because he had his clean handball with the ball. Like, he doesn't fumble like some of our players have been doing in the first couple of weeks, been fumbling and bumbling and stuff like that. He's showing his clean hands. Only gets it a few times, but as a sub, he is not a sub. Inside midfield is not a sub. They don't come off having much impact coming into a game late. And well, he got suspended for pushing Joel Selwood. They said he had high contact, which is the biggest bullshit I've ever heard in my life. If you watch the video, there's no had high contact. Little Stuckwood had a little sook about it. Where. What a big baby he is, just because someone actually had a crack at him and didn't bow and kiss him on the ass like some other people do. And Jesus, the AFL would hate that because they love Joey Stuckwood. Idiots. But back to Taylor Adams, I think he showed against Geelong in the NAB Cup what he can do. It's just that he hasn't played in the right position to play, which is on the ball and get the footy, which is very fantastic. Yeah. Not playing on the wing or playing up full. He has to develop that part of the game, but you won't get the best impact from him. So I'll just wrap this up and hope you guys enjoy it, and I'll do my round 4 segment next week. So up to Mighty Pies. Oh yeah.